Yahawashi, Yahawashi, Bahashim, Rakach Hadash. All praise, honor, and glory go to the Most High Yahweh in the name of His Son Yahawashi. And I'm back to you with a little understanding that I was inspired to do a video about the beheading that the elect may have to face, and want to touch into it on a more spiritual level, while also tapping into the physical aspect of having to think about facing those things. And it was all inspired by the elder in Dallas, him to say 144. His video that he did last night was very encouraging, but also chilling, to the bone if you really think about it. Because I put myself in the mindset of maybe having to face the toughest things that I never want to face, but still having to call the name of Yahawashi, Yahawashi, and do what's right, His law, to the best of my ability, while keeping my faith in Yahawashi until the end, no matter what comes up. And so it got me to want to think about the word beheading. And in the New Testament, it comes up a couple times, speaking about John. And that enough right there is spiritual, because you got to think about who John was. He was the voice calling in the wilderness, kind of like how the men of the Lord are out there. And I pray the number of those men that are out here in the wilderness, on the street corners, doing the videos, pushing videos, standing firm for Yahawashi Yahawashi in these last days. Matthew 14:10 says, and he sent and beheaded John in the prison. In 6:16, but when Herod heard thereof, he said, it is John whom I beheaded. He is risen from the dead. Hearing about Yahawashi. And then he goes into the Mark 6:27. Immediately the king sent an executioner and commanded in his head be brought, and he went and beheaded him in the prison. So, and then Luke talks about it again. But then you get to Revelation 20:4. And then it talks about how those that hold on, and are doing the work, are going to be beheaded. And it says in Revelation 20:4, and I'm going to get some precepts about that particular part, but then I'm going to go into depth about what the beheading is by looking up the word. It says, and I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them, and I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahawashi, and for the word of Yahweh, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither have received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Hamashiach 1,000 years. And that's the ultimate goal, to be holding on to the end, whether you have to die in this particular world, in this particular phase, and transition over into one of his elect that's going to be on the fathership, and come down and reign with Yahawashi for 1,000 years, or you're standing on your feet and you get to actually get beamed up, as Elijah and Enoch were. But when you go into this word beheaded, is G3990, and it's a combination of words. It's palakidzo, Slakia. It's just one word. I apologize. This has another meaning. It says to cut off with an axe, to be beheaded. So that's the literal sense. And some of us will have to face that. And I say us, I'm praying about that number, but it's all for the suffering of Yahawashi Mashiach. I was just speaking to my wife this morning about how, the men in the Lord, the reason why we sometimes, and I always say, I pray about that number, that's why I say I feel this humbleness come upon me because of this truth, and, I feel honored to be able to even mention myself amongst those that have labored, because I call on the name of Yahawashi Yahawashi as well and follow those teachings. And it wasn't an easy road, because I had to go through my hoops and hurdles, but we are here now. And, because I'm here now, I always like to mention the power of Yahawashi Yahawashi through all these things. But to go further, it says to cut off with an axe, to behead, and that's the literal things that we might have to face. Then when you go deeper, it's like it into the word is G4141. And it says to strike, to smite. You go deeper into the word is G4111. It says to form, to mold, something to clay or wax. Oh, Slakia. So that's the version. So that's the word beheaded and what it means. Let me see if it's two different versions of the word. Yes, it is. See, it's G607. Salakia. And it says apokephalizo. Apokephalizo. So when you go into that, it is a combination of words. It says to cut off the head, behead, decapitate. G575 says of a separation, a local separation of part of the whole, wherever a whole some part is taken, of any kind of separation of one from one to another. So the spiritual, by which the union or fellowship of the two is destroyed. So maybe come a time where we won't have the brotherhood to help us out, spiritually, to endure these things. We have to be set all alone. It says a physical distance of pace, temporal, a distance of time, for a distance of time, for a time period. Go to the second part of the word is kafale, and it says the head, both the men and soft and the animals, since the loss of the head destroys life. The word is used in the phrase relating to capital and extreme punishment. See, extreme punishment, capital punishment, and we know that's going to be coming. Anything supreme, chief, prominent. It says a person's master's lord, a famasiak, of things, the cornerstone. So it's gonna come a time when, we're not gonna be able to maybe even read our Bibles. We're gonna have to go with the wisdom, knowledge, understanding that we already got. We're not gonna even have the ability to pray, because something may keep going on so in depth that you're not gonna be able to call out. You can cut off your tongue, So you're gonna have your own your insides to be able to do the praying. It could be any scenario for each person that the Most High Yahweh wants you to go through to glorify His holy name. And that's how you should be thinking about it, that is only happening so that you can glorify His name. If you go to that word and you look up some precepts, beheaded. Psalm 24 says, and I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given to them, and I saw the souls of them were beheaded. And it goes into Revelation 6 and 9, and it says, and when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Yahweh and for the testimony which they held. And that sounds like a very, disturbing time. And probably, it's gonna be like in the flesh. Yet, the ultimate glory behind it, knowing that you get to be in the fellowship with Yahawashi Mashiach and get to experience, deliverance, outweighs it all. Let's go over to the ESV. Let's see if it has anything about the beheading. Same scripture, 6 and 9. Revelation 6 and 9. So it looks like, everyone's referencing towards that. Revelation 6 and 9. So looks like it's just the same breakdown on the beheading. And I just want to touch basics about beheaded right there. It says, who have given their lives for their faith in Hamashiach. NET might give you a little bit more. Let's see. Thrones, this was seated. Judgment. So as you see, everything points back to the slaying, the beheading, the physical torture that his elect may have to go through. In Daniel 7:22 it says, until the Ancient of Days arrived and a judgment was given in favor of the Holy Ones of the Most High, for the time had come and the Holy Ones took possession of the kingdom. But that time also is giving you the deliverance and the bringing in of this new world that we're waiting for. The government on headed by Yahawashi on the throne of David. Matthew 19:28. It says, Yahawashi said to them, truly I tell you, in the renewal of all things, when the Son of Man sits on his glorious throne, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Yasharallah. So this is nothing but victory. This is nothing but triumph that he's mentioned about by going through these trials that could even be your life or your head being cut off. 1 Corinthians 6:2-3 says, or don't you know that the saints will judge the world? And if the world is judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the trivial cases? Don't you know that we will judge angels? How much more matters of this life? So it's saying, get yourself in order now. Prepare yourself for these type of, put your mindset on these type of things that you may have to face, so that you can be able to handle the judgment that's going to come to everyone else. Because you're going to have to also be judging. You're going to be given that responsibility to be judging if you're one of those men that were called to be, one of the 144. Salakia. Then you go over to Revelations 3:21, and I've ended with this. It says, to the one who conquers, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne, just as I also conquered and sat down with my Father on his throne. Yahawashi promises a co-rulership with him as the head. And as we get to this point in time, we got to be really thankful for that union of ruling this nation, of Yasharallah, and rule and being rulers of the whole world. Chosen since the beginning of time to participate in that. Because there's going to be a level of ranking that all should be thinking about. When you're thinking about pleasing the Heavenly Father, you're thinking about such things like this as the ranking and the pairing that he's going to do to those that follow him, and those that, the 2/3, and those that are giving just a little bit of their energy, or some that is not giving as much. You want to be a good and faithful servant to the best that you can do, to the ability that he's giving you. And we're all, guilty of it sometimes, of being, having a scroll demon while you're doing, before you do a lesson, or, the lust of man, for women, and, wanting to empower yourself more, in Babylon. We all get those temptations, and we all may even fall in those temptations sometimes. We got to understand that we got to put ourselves now. It's at a time where we got to put ourselves now in the suffering that we might have to go through. And then also, he's going to give some spiritual powers. So you got to prepare yourself on both sides. Whether you're going to be one of the ones to get the spiritual powers, and you're calling on them, Yahawashi, you're going to do miracles through, so others can see it and proclaim the glory of the Most High Yahweh, or you have to go through the other side where you have to be saying Yahawashi to the point where they even cut off your head. So I just wanted to come up with that lesson, and with that, just want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh B'Hashem Yahawashi, B'Hashem Rakach Chadash. Double honors to all the apostles, the elders, the teachers, the preachers, the priests, the bishops that came before me, taught me his truth through the videos, starting with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who are the true prophets of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahawashi, who were taught by their apostles before them. And Shalom, peace be to you, to his holy elect, which I pray him on the number of. Till next time, Yahweh.